Thank you very much, my friend. A couple of months ago, I invited Mr. Jim Rogers, who founded the Quantum Fund with George Soros, and he got a lot of money out of it, and he gave made a talk to students, and he and I had a lunch in the same space where we had the lunch, and he raised a very interesting question that if we gave a degree for entrepreneurship, either undergrad or MBA, does it guarantee he becomes an entrepreneur after graduation? That leads me another question, that if we teach students business, can they become businessmen after graduation? Can they become a leader in an organization? It does not guarantee. All A's in the curriculum courses, if they got all A's, does it guarantee he can become a good manager? I don't think so. They can become a good scholar, maybe, right? But it never guarantees anything like that. I think this is the essence of the problem, what we are facing in current issues or in the future. Do we need the Steve Jobs? Well, do we need to have another Bill Gates? Well, if we need to have Bill Gates out of KUBS, I think I need to teach them how to quit out of a good school. No, but we need to teach. We have to teach. Why? Why do they need degrees? Why, do we need to get the profit out of it, or what are we doing? I think today, out of all discussions, I think we are facing more philosophical thing to think. As a dean, we need to consider ranks, but why? For promotion of professors? Yeah, but what does it mean to us? Well, he can get promoted out of articles, number of articles in good journals, but it's not necessarily beneficial to practitioners. So I think there were good discussions in each session. Now I think it's open to floor. So I'd like to invite all chair sessions on the stage and let us have overall discussion. Please come over. Okay, I think we have enough time to talk. Please raise your hand. The microphone will be yours. And you can designate any person or in general or any comments, any questions. You are welcome to do so. Then it's too early. I need to spend a little bit more time.
Thank you. Malcolm Wright from Massey University in New Zealand. In considering the change or the shift of the economic axis back to Asia and the implications for business schools, one of the things that strikes me is looking at the Thomson ISI Web of Knowledge Social Science Citation Index, how the journals are overwhelmingly, if not exclusively, in the English language. And I'd be intrigued in the views of all the chairs, whether this is an issue, and if it is, what strategies might seek to change that over time.
First, I have a lot to say about research.
You can take the microphone out.
Yeah, that's something actually was mentioned during the research panel discussion, and there are different ways to take it. The issue is the journal game. Is it legitimate entirely?
Then if it is legitimate, and if we consider journal games as being entirely legitimate, then the issue of language takes place. But so far, it might have been an issue years ago. It's less and less an issue because we know that scholars are mobile. We know that many are now pursuing PhD research written in English. Even in countries that have proved extremely reluctant to that, like France, it's now possible actually to submit a dissertation in English, while it was not that much for legal reasons. So it might not be so much of an issue. The problem is slightly different. Do we have to teach all the PhD students to focus only on producing publishable papers following one main trend, rather than to look for other sort of outcomes out of the research? And then the other sort of outcome might be, you know, like for instance, influential report written in the given language, in the place where they have to be possibly used to actually possibly influence decisions, either within a company or at the government level. So I think while discussing the issue on the panel, the issue of language was not so much of a problem in itself. What is for sure is that it was mentioned that any of the journals that were started in different languages, and even the ones started in English but in the UK, did not achieve to be recognized among the leading journals, whatever the discipline. Which means that it's not even a question of language. It's a question of dominance of the North American culture. Even if things are written in English, but not following the dominant path, then things might get different. So I'm sure that all of us have.
Yeah, particularly you are from France, and I know your people love your language. Then what happened to your in teaching in English or writing articles in English? What's the trend in France?
First, the trend in France is no longer to hire French professors. As a result, many very well qualified French professors are hired in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in all over the world. You have French professors? Yes, of course.
They have a French professor.
So, and probably growing number. You know, in the past, we had an institution in France, in CA, that started as an international school, did not belong to the French system of education, so that was not an issue for it. Now, on the side of the member of the traditional French systems, that was not an issue. People had to be French 50 years ago. Now, in most of the leading schools, at least 50% of the faculty are non-French, and I would say more than a third don't speak French at all. So it's becoming difficult for the old generation, you know, like myself, to survive, since everything has to be done in English. Meetings are carried in English, because if you have only one faculty member who is not French, then the language for the meeting is English, even if all the others are actually French. So I would say that at least in the business world, and more in engineering, in France, English is becoming the dominant language.
Yeah, I remember that a few years ago, the president of Tokyo University gave a presentation in this campus. He said that there are many different Englishes. Okay. So English, Chinese English, Korean English, you know, Japanese English, and so on. Singlish. Okay. Do you like to say something or any other response?
Maybe I have
okay.
If I may add anything from my perspective. I'm from Beijing, China. In my part of the world, the phenomenon you just described is even worse, far worse than you can expect. Anything that is not citation index is not doesn't have a quality, and but I see this as a necessary evil. And to put it into a historical perspective, I think it's good for us for the time being. It helps us to develop the rigor, the necessary rigor, 20 years ago, there was basically no real research in management. Professors only do teaching development, were typically writing textbooks and so forth. But 20 years from the 90s, empirical research, the research paradigm is firmly entrenched. So in that sense, we have to develop the rigor, and then there's an increasing call for indigenous research, theory building, and so forth. I think that will follow. And secondly, also historical trend. 20 years ago, if somebody did China-related research, this is low quality. No one is interested. No one would be interested in reading China-related business research. But 20 years later, along with economic success in Asia and so forth, and gradually, people would be interested. Top journals are interested in publishing China-Asia-related articles. I think the next step would be more innovation, and we'll start asking what would be our contribution to the world of management knowledge. I think that time will come, diversity will come. At the moment, our colleagues in China just are not simply, they are not interested in putting the effort to develop our own quality journal in Chinese. They're all focusing on, because of this global assessment, accreditation, all global convergence. But I think that is also a temporary thing. I think the next stage will be more local or globalization. Thank you.
Yes, I like to talk about the Korean case. In our university, maybe 5 years ago, we started to ask our PhD students to write a thesis in English, because we need an article in the good journals, actually published by the state or the European countries. So we encourage our students to write thesis in English before, but nowadays it's required. So even our doctoral students has a hard time to write a thesis in English, but they have it's kind of training to publish the article in the foreign journals in English. As Dean Lee mentioned, that there are so many languages. English is. Do you know what is the world common language? Broken English.
Okay. Any other questions, comment, please? Yes.
Thank you very much. Just a comment about English. I was one of those who really tried to establish work in Spanish, okay, but I had to give up because English is the lingua franca of the world. Until the Chinese take us all over, we will continue to be an English-dominated discipline, all business and economics disciplines. So I think we have no way out of that. My question is about research. I mean, we had a very lively discussion in our research panel. And if you're not going to judge, evaluate professors by their output in Thomson, EC, catalog journals, how do you do it? I mean, what do you consider to be valid research toward a successful academic career? Is there a way out? I used to think that there was a way out. Now I don't think there is. Now I think that what is happening is that new journals are appearing. Some of them are online, they're e-journals, and that eventually the disciplines that we cover will be broad enough to accept local contributions, contributions that are applicable to certain regions or countries, or more global or oriented toward the developed countries and so forth. But I don't think there's really an alternative, unless some of you may give us some good suggestions.
Research?
We just started this discussion during the panel, not really getting into concrete solutions. But Professor Lee mentioned that it's certainly difficult to compare our discipline to others' discipline. But if we try to do it, for instance, in medicine, okay, well, research is of key importance. But what is published is not only the result of speculative thinking or pure simulation. What is published in many medical journals are the result of experimentation with bodies. So we might ask to ourselves, what about publishing experimentation rather than purely speculative thinking? If we look at architecture, some architects, some professors of architecture that are architects at the same time are publishing things that are related to big projects they have been able to lead or carry on. I remember a person at University College London, School of Architecture, that published a series of very interesting papers, all grounded into theoretic thinking, talking about space syntax. But he did it in such a way that most of his work was sustained by experimentations done with the Norman Foster firm. And that actually had a lot of value to both the industry and education, and why not also the academic community. So publishing is one thing, but why do we focus on publishing purely speculative, based on the treatment of data, but not almost nothing regarding experimentation on the field? And that's a possible option for discussion.
Okay. Any comments on this? All right, then I will try to move to different topics. Would you comment on this? Yeah. Oh, okay, okay.
In the UK, for our SINs, we have something called the Research Assessment Exercise. The exercise is aimed very explicitly at, or has been in the past, at individual papers and assessing the quality of them. And a panel of people like me, the argument being you don't have to be a beauty queen to judge research effectively, are given the task of looking at papers and assessing them. Now, we all know that there's lots of other aspects to it. So in its wisdom, the Funding Council decided last time round that we should look at other factors like the environment of a particular school. I think it would be fair to say that my experience of a panel trying to consider other factors was that it's almost impossible. Everything is just so interrelated, and you start making arbitrary judgments. And then when, as in the UK, these judgments are tied to money, serious amounts of money in some cases, this is grossly unfair. So on the basis of very limited experience, I personally think that tying it to individual achievements may be unfair, but it's probably fairer than anything else that can be done, or at least at the present.
Well, good afternoon. First of all, thank you very much, Dean Lee, for having us all here and opening up this discussion. And I understand the importance of research and so on, but I wanted to switch gears. Research obviously is very critical to us because we are in the knowledge creation business, so I understand why we need to talk about this. I did want to switch gears. I was with the group that was discussing collaboration, and the question I wanted to pose to the panel is, while in our group we discussed collaboration from many different perspectives, we discussed it from a perspective of curricular connections, whether it's social impact, financial implications, and so on. The question I wanted to ask is collaboration really what is holding all of us together here in terms of these different issues that we're discussing, whether it's entrepreneurship, research, or any other aspect of education? So is collaboration going to help this, or is collaboration going to be helped by different growth in research or in any of the other aspects that are covered by the panel here?
Everybody's looking at you.
I guess his question probably for the rest of you, because we discussed this already. I think from my own perspective, coming here is really one of the main things my school is internationalization, and I feel this is one of the platforms that to facilitate our internationalization effort. So I guess yes, then the answer is yes, it's really collaborations. And the collaboration actually, can involve student, faculty, research, on and on and on and on. So, the answer is yes. I think may I take this opportunity to address a bit about research, just briefly. I try to grab the microphone and switch. Just a very quick. Our school is new, so we explained a little bit about how to assess a person's productivity, and basically we say a journal matters, but other journals as well, like even commentary in the newspaper as well. So, and then one cycle passed, and so basically we have a few review of the promotion, and turn out what get presented to us are a lot of paper commentary and a lot of, I would say, local Chinese journal, which I don't know whether I have so many Chinese colleagues here, but we view it kind of a bit, it's not as rigorous as English journal. And so basically this faculty member said, look, I achieved all what you asked for. So we had no choice but promote him or her. So we sort of, and so we review our policy, and then we actually revert back to have this A and non-A. And so where our A list is really standard, it's standard A list. So basically, our argument is we are a new school. And then and I think our academic reputation is not as it's not there. And as a matter of fact, I think many of the school here, even though history longer than our school, probably in a similar position as well in terms of when it comes to academic rigorous reputation with toward US and some key university in UK, in Europe. So basically, this is what I say. If we, this is the kind of analogy, not exactly. So if we hire a graduate from Harvard, okay? If we hire a graduate from, I'm just making it up. If you come from the institution, I apologize to offend. If say we hire a graduate from Cal State, Los Angeles, then people, the signal they will send out is we are really a level according based the same as it. But if Harvard hire a graduate from Cal State, Los Angeles, people say, hey, this student is superb. So the game we are playing is kind of echo with Professor Mao here. This is a necessary step. I would not call it necessary evil. This is a necessary step for us to get there. So before we can have our own journal or to be recognized worldwide, we have to prove that we can do it. And this is pretty much the, I would say this is pretty much the, Honda's spirit, right? 30 years ago, nobody kind of look up to the Honda. Now, right now, it's a key player. And this is the same thing as Toyota as well. And this is the same thing as the China's development as well, right? Like when China first returned to Olympic, 0 medal. But now in terms of medal, I'm not saying the medal number matters, but it's basically people start looking into it. I think on the education, on the sports front, on the economic development front, and I think collectively now is on education front. And here we try to close the gap. I really like the idea very much to have start our own first case study journal. And I hope this is the first step. It takes time. It takes time.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, over there. I think.
Well, okay. Very short question.
You will be the next.
My name is Donggu An from Hallym University. I'm a dean of graduate school of business. My concern and question is about ranking system. I think everybody here is involved somewhere in ranking. And my issue is that the ranking is covered by private company, and there's also international ranking agent and domestic. So I'm interested in how you guys respond to the ranking, and is there any good way of collectively respond to the ranking system? So this is just comment and comments.
Right. I think for the last a few years, the ranking has become a big topic to academic society. It never happened before. All of a sudden, the competition became globalized. No matter what you like it or not, or no matter what you believe it or not. I think this is, in positive side, it's a good incentive for an institution to work harder. But on the other hand, is this really a good education, or does it really help? I think this is a good question too. Anybody can talk about this? Or from the audience? Yes.
Just a brief comment. I'm just struck that this tyranny of the rankings. I'm just struck that this modern tyranny of the rankings, of course, comes not from the West, but from China. And who were the originators of the current wave of university rankings. I'm not drawing any conclusions from that, but it's just interesting.
Let me give you a little bit of cultural perspective. I mean, in Chinese language, we do not have such a phrase as one of the best. We don't. You're number one or number two. And people always think number one is always better than number two. One of the best, this is a Western notion. We don't have it.
Okay. I'm Dean Kim, Ewha School of Business in Korea. I have another question on topic collaboration. For competitive reasons, many business schools distinguish themselves among numerous competitive schools in the market. Yeah? So Ewha School of Business is not an exception. Yeah? But important thing, I think, is the sustainability of the partner universities. So I have questioned to Dean Lee. As a Vice President of External Affairs, Dean Lee has tried to make an agreement with a lot of foreign schools. And in the collaboration session, they introduced a COOPS S3 system, for example. My question is it still sustainable? And what do you think is important to keep that agreements with foreign universities going on and successfully?
Thank you very much. By the way, Ewha University is the largest in the world in terms of women university. Okay, you are asking me. Yeah. The making collaboration is not an easy job, but if you share same or similar vision together, you and he or she will find out the way how to collaborate. I think that's the first step, anyways. And then the collaborations can sustainable if they achieve mutually beneficial. So otherwise it cannot be maintained. So many exchange programs were signed by many deans or presidents all over the world, but it's only in the library or museum, just with many pictures. But most of the cases, nothing happens after all. So I think I should have something in my mind with my vision or my strategy, and if I could happily find out the similar partner, then it's very easy and sustainable, I think. About this or different about this issue? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, the Fudan.
Yeah, since I'm from NUS, right? So we are good collaborators. So I should address that as well. There is the perspective of collaboration for mutual benefit. So the collaborators come together. We can work together on something that we believe, that we share common vision, and therefore we think that this thing that we do together is beneficial, useful, and so on, right? So in that sense, as long as that relationship continues and we share the same vision, that collaboration in that sense, in terms of sustainability, would be helped along the way. But there is the other part, the other aspect that's kind of like beyond us, which is the market force itself, the market acceptance of whatever we work together. And the world is big. Everyone else out there perhaps are much cleverer than we can ever be. So the collaboration would grow the pie for us. We make an attempt to make the relationship work and make our product work, but there is this other element out there that will be the real test as to its long-term sustainability. The relationship can continue to be sustained, but it will evolve in our product offering, so to speak, because that's subject to the market force out there.
Language or financial issues are no more big issues to you?
Well, in a commercial world, right, there's always loss leaders that help to build reputation, they help to draw in other customers, and to be able to collaborate by sharing what we have, to us is an asset. It helps us to understand Korean and our Korean partners, helps us to understand our Chinese partners, helps us to see those markets that they see much better than we can, namely the North Asian market compared with us in Southeast Asia. So there are all these other things. So it depends on how you calculate the cost and the dollars and cents.
Thank you.
You wanted to mention about this, yes?
Well, maybe I just move back to the other gentleman's comments on ranking, and then said that...
you're moving back.
Well, because I didn't have a chance to respond.
Okay.
But I think China is really late, I mean, in the ranking game. So I mean, saying that all started with the China ranking from China. And from Shanghai Jiao Tong University, I guess that's what you meant. So since I am from Shanghai Jiao Tong University, I just felt I need to say something. I think this is late, but all jokes aside, I think Shanghai Jiao Tong University ranking now actually is officially not called the Shanghai Jiao Tong University ranking, but the Shanghai ranking, because the university received complaints from the Minister of Education that they got from the premier of the vice premier of China, who heard from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who heard from, I think, 2 countries. One from I think it was Egypt in the old days. The Egyptian Ministry of Education complained that China did not rank their university high enough, and then another complaint was some French Minister of Education as well. So the university, once the minister complained, and the university said, okay, don't do it, for Shanghai Jiao Tong University, just do it yourself, called the Shanghai ranking. But the ranking game was late, but we all surprised that how it caught people's attention. But my guess is that all the rankings in the old days were done mostly by US, and so people thought that's a US-centric ranking. So once you got something from China, it's really not a powerhouse in higher education, and it produced a ranking that is really objective. It's a very simple ranking. I mean, it's not scientific, not very scientific. It's just to count the number of Nobel laureate either was educated in the university or now working for the university, and the second to count the number of publications that I think in Science and Nature, and that's all that it is. There's a little bit more else. But I think somehow many schools outside the US felt that this is at least objective, it is not biased, so that's why it caught people's attention. But there was no ill to begin with, and there is no attempt to somehow elevate the status of Chinese universities. So it's, I just want to say that this is just some attempt that somehow other people felt that's important. So hard to blame Jiao Tong University for that.
All right. Everybody wants to talk. Before.
Sorry, would you like to end now?
Oh, you already have the microphone.
I have the mic, but I don't know whether you wanted to end the session. I'm Jeff Garrett from Dean of the Australian School of Business, and I wanted to take a different tack on the rankings issue. And the different tack for me has to do with the MBA. So we proudly say we're the top business school in Australia. Why are we the top business school in Australia? It's because we are the highest ranked Australian university in the FT MBA ranking. Okay, we're very happy about that. But we have 60 full-time MBA students. We have 1,400 part-time MBA students. We have 8,000 undergraduate business students. If we look at the FT 45 business school full-time MBA rankings, I bet almost everybody in there is losing money on their full-time MBA. They're doing it because they need to be ranked. The only institutions that are not losing money in the full-time MBA are the wealthiest universities in the United States, which have large MBA programs. Is it now time for us to consider developing a non-US centered MBA ranking, which is about what I understand to be the reality, which is MBAs for working professionals rather than for full-time students.
Okay, is it connected to this issue? She raised many hands so far, so...
you know, we talked a lot about
So will we end up with the ranking, right?
It will touch upon
Okay,
ranking.
okay.
It will also touch upon career development. So it's multi. So collaboration panel, we talked a lot about, you know, collaborating with other universities, with the business community. I wanted to make a comment that for us, collaboration just within the departments, within the business, our own business school really made a difference as well. For example, our career development for MBA office closely now works with our MBA team, and the career development head actually has influence in the selection of the MBA candidates. Why? Because what she looks at is not always what the MBA director will look at in terms of, okay, does this student have the right credentials in terms of academic standing, GMAT, versus the career development person is looking at how is this person going to fit with the kind of employer she wants to make sure that they end up hiring this student. So they have different perspectives, but this worked so well. We actually got the highest ranking in America for placement this year. And I think it's part of this collaborative effort. It helps with the career development, just thinking it a little bit differently. How do you really help place these students while working closely with the business community, which in turn helped us with ranking.
Okay, okay.
Thank you very much. Bernard Belton, Dean of Cage Business School in France, and we have different campuses in Asia and in Africa. And before coming to this conference, I had a dream. This dream was the contents could be different in comparison with the Dean's Conference in Europe or in United States. It's partially right, but I have many questions today. We have in front of us a growing gap between poor and rich at the level of nations, at the level of people. We have in front of us the digital revolution. We have in front of us so many challenges in terms of quality of employment or non-employment. And we discuss about ranking, about research. And I think we are deans of business schools. Our academic social responsibility could be to begin to change the paradigm of teaching and practicing management. We need to invent pedagogy for social entrepreneurship. We need to invent pedagogy taking into account complexity, because our world is very complex. In this conference is designed to see that the center of the world is not unique. How can we teach that? How can we develop the competencies of our students to become more efficient in their employment? Frankly speaking, when I am looking at the publications of my faculty, it's a secret, it's between us, okay? 80% are on traditional issues on management. And Hervé said a few minutes ago, the difference between research in management and research in medicine. You're right, Hervé. But we have this responsibility maybe to orientate the research in different fields. I am taking a risk with the ranking, yes. And I refuse that my board could request to me an objective of ranking. It's not my job. My job is to develop the competencies for employment and not ranking. And I'd like to share with you this opinion, because we are speaking about entrepreneurship, we are speaking about collaboration. we need to innovate on these different fields. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think I feel great pressure right now because timekeeping is actually my major responsibility here. I think I'm not doing very well. At least we need to have dinner. So I have to say I think we need to stop here because his comment is very much intuitive, and we need to really think about all of the lot of different problems as a whole, with the philosophical thing. What we need to do as a dean, as a business school, do we really need to, what is our ultimate goal? To teach a good student, or to train them to get a good job, or to be a good mankind, or humanity, whatever it is, right? So I think whole day discussion leads to another philosophical issue here, but it will never end. So please allow me to stop right here, and we'll continue in the dinner time. You can have a lot of discussion.